Hello and welcome to episode 70 of our SAP on Azure Video Podcast. Today is December 3rd, and together with Robert and Goran, we're here to talk about anything related to SAP and Microsoft. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Knowing what is happening not only on Azure, but actually also inside your SAP system is obviously extremely important when talking about SAP on Azure. In the past, we already had an episode where we talked about the Azure Monitor for SAP. And today, Pankaj is joining us to give us an update on all the cool new things that are happening in the AMS area. And he has not brought one single slide, but he will actually show us in a live system what you can do with Azure Monitoring for SAP. But as always, before we go there, let's quickly take a look at some of the news from the week. And I want to start with one other blog post from Martin around BTP private link. So the private link service, I think we had a lot of, or Martin actually had created a lot of blog posts already. So this is part 7 of his series. And now, so you can really see the evolution. The first one was just how do we connect our BTP instance to an SAP system. And in the meantime, we are in the stage where we talk about SSL, so really encrypting the connectivity. There were some issues in the past, but the teams have been, so this is obviously still in beta, so there's still development going on. And now the teams have worked out how to have a nice HTTP connection that's easier to set up, I would say, that has not some of the workarounds that were in place before. And in this blog post, Martin talks about how this can be done. The next thing is something that Goran and I and colleagues from SAP, also other colleagues from Microsoft, have been working on for quite some time, I would say. And that's converting your SAP ERP ECC system on premises to SAP S/4HANA on Azure. So this is basically a white paper, a fairly long white paper that outlines how you can do a conversion and a migration to Azure in one step. It's detailing what you need to do to prepare your infrastructure on the Azure side. Then it guides you through what you need to install, where do you need to install, which ports do you need to open, what's the best network architecture, some considerations there on latency. And then, it guides you here through these 6 steps. Let me actually here, I cannot increase the size right here. It guides you through the 6 steps of the full migration. And I think it's a very detailed document that outlines how you can do conversion and migration in one step to Azure. The good thing is we already have customers that are using it. We have customers that worked with us during the creation of the document, but now also that we have published this document, we already have some customers trying it out. So I think if you have an ECC system on premises right now, if you want to migrate and convert your system to S4 on Azure, I think that's definitely worth checking out. Goran, anything to add from your side, since obviously you were also...
No, I think that's I mean, as I'm also working a lot on a migrational project, they are extremely complex, and here it's not just migrating the same system to another platform. It's a huge project. Migrating also from normal ERP to S/4HANA, it's another project. And here you have 2 things in one, right? And also optimize the downtime, and that's a huge value, So I'm very sure more and more how those deadlines of S/4HANA migration, how they are approaching, that would be, I'm sure, customer will do more and more, and this will gain on importance, this kind of approach and this migration.
Cool.
Was a lot of work.
Check it out. Yeah, it was a lot of work. Absolutely. Okay, moving on. Cameron has created another summary general update for November. Goran, should we jointly?
So some of those stuff we mentioning, maybe some are a bit newer. So he writes very nice updates, blog updates on what happened basically. So we can just quickly go. It's really a huge list, and they're very practical. He's talking about Windows 20, the new Windows, a little bit about 2022. I mean, it's still being, of course, tested from the SAP side. It's happening, so it's expected also to come, and some interesting feature. He's telling on the second point about different SAP and Oracle. I mean, Oracle is, I believe, still the most #1 database with SAP. So he is giving a lot of detailed tips and tricks and how to do and new stuff about the Oracle Linux, for example. There are also Linux customers. Then he talks also about the Azure backup part as well for the Oracle, about very practical data guard for replication, some tips and tricks. He talks later about the Sentinel. I mean, we don't have to go through the all details afterwards. The new PPG, which we were mentioning, and SQL, Azure backup for SQL Server, and new SAP IQ. It's another database for SAP. It's like Zoo. SAP has a lot of databases, right? Very practical stuff of issues with the high availability, for example, on HANA and SQL Server. How it can happen, I think we also mentioned it as well. So really warmly, he lists also the of interest of links to the documentation, to the SAP notes as well, on the bottom, exactly. Even down if you go exactly. So he would list it. So it's very, he's doing this very systematical, and it's nice kind of snapshot. Cool. But actually, because he published this on December 1st, if you go to the next article, exactly, he missed this part because it just came
this will be his next update
1 day later or something like this. Actually, it's a new Pacemaker cluster on Linux. On SUSE, there's a new option to use for the so-called SBD device. SBD device is just when you have a 2-node cluster, it's a mechanism that one node should kill another node and send some messages. So if you go a little bit on the top, there is an overview with SUSE. It's a bit specific initially, fully on the top. We have some picture. I like the picture. So first option was to use so-called those as quasi target server, basically 3 VMs, which is the 3 VMs. It kind of costs. Second option was later to use the Azure APIs, and this is basically the third option, Azure Shared Disk, basically to be used here. So meaning it can be used also a local shared disk with availability set, or if you're in the zone, a zonal redundant shared disk. So this would definitely lead to simplification. I haven't tested some kind of performance impact between, let's say, Azure APIs is also a simple way, but maybe shared disk could be a bit even more responsive. Maybe I'm not sure, because it's just local disk, right? But I'm sure it will definitely lead to stability and simplification of the old cluster setups, which are generally complex. Complex thing.
Okay, great, thank you. Good, then moving on, a customer success story that I want to highlight because I thought that was quite interesting. So NBA, they decided to go with RISE with SAP, and they chose Azure as their high underlying hyperscaler. So one of the reasons why they did this, because they're also using a lot of other Azure services here, AI services that they want to combine with the data from their SAP system and stuff like that. So I thought that was a quite interesting customer story. And actually, if you read through some of the quotes, it's really great to see that they see the collaboration that we have between SAP and Microsoft, and they see all the new innovations that are happening in this area together. So really with SAP and Microsoft together. And I thought this was just a beautiful customer success story that was just released. So I just wanted to bring this up. Then one last thing that is currently happening. So yeah, December 1st started the Advent. So here we have the Festive Tech Calendar. So every day, yeah, and we are already on day 3, obviously. The community, I think, and this is mainly driven out of the UK community, if I'm not mistaken. They have a YouTube channel where they publish a video or multiple videos actually talking about different Azure topics. So, for example, yesterday there was a one about Azure data ingestion. And yeah, I have to admit I haven't watched them for today, but you can see there's automate password rotation with GitHub, building joyful center bot. So I think it's a really nice community-driven activity that is there happening, and there's really some cool videos there showcasing some very interesting Azure solutions, I would say. So I think it's definitely worth to check out if you're interested in some other Azure services. Good. With this, I think we're ready to hand over to Pankaj, who will show us a few things about AMS. But Pankaj, maybe you can quickly introduce yourself, and then I'm looking forward to seeing your demo.
Thank you, Holger. Thanks, Robert and Guran. I'll tell you, it's a privilege because I've followed your podcast for over a year now, much before I was at Microsoft. So I'm a principal program manager focused on, building solutions and products to run SAP better on Azure. So what does it mean? So Microsoft runs SAP for the last 25 years, and we run our workloads on Azure. So we have got some itsy bitsy solutions, which we use to, power our operations, our ways of working for SAP. And more often than not, customer kept on saying, how can we get this cool stuff? And we said, hey, look, there's a potential for us to productize it. And that's what is my goal, that how can I make all these solutions come as first party experience for our customers. Mm-hmm. And today we're going to speak about AMS, which is again a product which is offered free of cost. There's no licensing cost. It's only consumption for customer. AMS actually stands for Azure Monitor for SAP Solutions, and it's an actually cloud native product for customers running SAP on Azure. What does this mean? It's not those solutions which you have to deploy on your environment and wherever you're going. It basically runs as part of Azure stack itself, right? So it's kind of a plug and play. It works for both Azure virtual machines and large instances. And the beauty of it is that with Azure Monitor for SAP Solutions, you could collect all your telemetry data of SAP at the infrastructure level, at the database level, at the application level, at the same place, and then do a correlation, right? So that's what I do. Today, what I will do is deeper dive a little more on what we are doing and why we are doing and how customers are using it around 3 dimensions. Number one, how they can leverage the product to maximize the value and efficiency for their SAP operation. Number 2, about a cool feature where a couple of customers already reached out to us about generating auto insights. For example, if your SAP system has gone down, giving an auto RCA, root cause analysis, why it has gone down. And the third aspect is around the new capability which you have launched around the NetWeaver monitoring stack, around both at the application layer as well as at the OS level and so on and so forth.
Perfect.
Now, before I deeper dive, I'm not going to do any PowerPoint, like I said. I'm going to keep it a live demo. So bear with me if Murphy laws hits that, systems are slow and so on and so forth. But I've opened a couple of windows so that, you don't experience that slowness. And you will see me navigating between, screens here and there. Let me know once my screen is up.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
So before I deeper dive, right, I just want to set the context that the NetWeaver provider, as you mentioned, it's sitting within the AMS product itself, and it underline uses the same framework which the platform is using. All we are doing is using standard SAP provided RFC libraries to connect to your SAP system using standard function modules and RFCs to pull that telemetry data. So what does this mean? AMS is not a custom solution. It will work as is across multiple SAP stacks. And I'm going to show you today because what I have done is I've opened systems for you, where I'm going to show you two systems which are configured. One is S4D, which is an S4HANA 2020 system, and a GMT, which is a NetWeaver 7.5 system, enhancement pack 8 running on Business Suite on HANA. Now, the reason is because the way we are designing and building this solution is going to be non-intrusive, in the sense, if a customer is running today on NetWeaver and wants to go to future in S4HANA, AMS is going to be seamless for them. They don't have to do any configuration changes on their SAP stack to enable this. Now, before I go there, all the features which I'm going to talk today are in private preview. What does this mean? It's not available for all the customers. It's only available for select customers. As you know, AMS is running currently in 4 regions. So all this private preview is running in 4 regions. So quite often or not, customers come back saying, hey, look, I don't see these multiple tabs. What do I need to do? And the short answer is you have to reach out to your account team and say, hey, look, I want to sign up for the private preview, because some of the tabs which are available here are exclusively switched on when they subscribe to the private preview. So let me show you them. How does it look like? So when customer goes and adds a provider, which is a standard experience, if you look at, if they're not signed up for a private preview, they're going to see a screen like this, which is just NetWeaver monitoring for SOAP, which is around availability, queue statistics, NQ statistics, and so on and so forth. Now, when they sign up for private preview and they click on add provider, they see a detailed screen where they can say, do I need to subscribe for RFC based provider? And if they select yes, they have to use the same details which you use for your logon credential when you use an SAP logon screen, right? So it's no different. It uses standard SAP's methodology to connect to SAP system, and the entire code base is again written in Python, available for users to have a look at it, right? Now, this is the experience when you go and add a provider, because provider is the first logical step in AMS, where you're telling, hey, look, AMS, I want to connect to this SAP system. And the way it connects is through SID level. OK, now, before I deeper dive, I just want to take you back to a conversation which I was having with SAP customers. And they were like, and most of them, right, because I spend a lot of time in SAP, and all of you as well. And if you know that SAP operations, at least managers, have a very tedious task to do, because they have to ensure that SAP systems are operating at a maximum efficiency, as well as they're available to changing demanding needs of business. What does this mean? For example, period end closing is a very resource intensive job. And when you run it, you have to ensure that the system is available and so on and so forth. So they're in constant pressure to ensure that mean time to resolution is also addressed and the service levels are met. So keeping in view, we actually spoke to a lot of customers and then went about designing the metrics which you're going to see today. So as soon as a customer logs into SAP NetWeaver, they see a single pane of entire NetWeaver providers which they've added. For example, if I added 5 more, they're going to see everything at one shot here itself. There are legends, for example, if it's green, which means that my entire application server, all processes are available for us to consume. If I bring something down, it's going to get it to yellow. If a message and NQ server goes down, it's going to be red, right? So it basically tells them what's the state of their SAP system. The dashboard basically tells them in point in time in last 15 minutes. OK, because that's what they get to. And obviously, they can even look at each process level within an SID, what's the status, okay, and what's the availability and what's the availability trend. Now, a lot of time people come back and say, hey, look, I want to do a double dip and drill down on it, right? And the answer is you go to availability tab. And what you could do is I'm just going to change it to 48 hours. They can change the time range. They can change the SID which they want to. And if you have not selected, system defaults the first one by itself, okay? They can also select a specific application server which they would want to monitor. Now, if I look at here, I'm seeing there is for sure there is some unavailability happening. And what I could do is I could actually just time slice the information on what I want to look at. And if you look at the corresponding services for each of the application servers will automatically refer to that particular time window so that I can isolate my outage window right there itself. Now, there is an interesting capability which we have built. And when you click on the availability, it also surfaces you right there itself. So if I look at it, shows me unavailability that it was not 100%. Now it tells me what exactly happened, what happened in the SAP system right there, right? And if you look at, if I click one of them, it says it was the virtual machine was restarted by an end user. Hardware resource allocated, right? So it tells the users why the system was unavailable, what was the root cause, and obviously they can click on the resource ID to actually navigate to that virtual machine itself. So this is the feature which we have enabled just as a private preview, which is auto RCA root cause analysis. So anytime your SAP system goes down, you will have the capability to surface the RCA right there within minutes, 15 minutes, that why the system went down, probably from an infrastructure perspective, and it surfaces the reason right there for the user. So no longer the classical dilemma saying, hey, look, basis guy says, I don't know what's happening. The system looks good. Infrastructure says, I don't know what's happening. So let's figure it out. And often, you have a day, 2 day for people to go back and forth to figure out what exactly happened. Now, with the power of Azure, power of AMS, we're able to surface this information right there with a single click for the user.
Perfect. So exactly like what you said. I not only see that the system is down, that there was some unavailability, but I can really drill down and get more insights on what was actually the reason why the system was done.
Yes. And all of these, Olga, right, is coming because this is cloud native to Azure, right? So we are able to surface information right up there for customers, so they don't have to go to multiple places or multiple clicks to figure out what is happening and where it is happening.
Cool.
And this part is the NetWeaver of the system, meaning app service and central services, right?
Yes. So this focuses on all your primary, secondary application server as well as central instances, the ASCS.
So how would similar functionality be there for the database part, for example, which is part of the system?
Great question. Yes, it is. It is in our roadmap. Right now, we're just piloting, like I said, with pilot preview for application server. But in case an application server is down because the database is unavailable, they will see right here.
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Also, because this is just one application server, to your point, it has got 4 app servers if you look at, right? And the system is actually showcasing all of them with hostname, with which system is running what process and what's the availability in each of the systems. Okay, so what we have done with this is given that information back to the end user so that they get complete insight on what's happening on their environment.
Cool.
And this is all near real time, okay, in the sense with a delay of 5 to 10 minutes, because that's the information time we are extracting and putting it back to the user. The availability is almost 60 seconds. Every 60 seconds, we are creating the telemetry. So a user within 5 minutes will be able to know the root cause of why it happened and what next steps they could eventually take.
Cool, nice.
Moving on, I just want to focus on the NetWeaver application around around looking at the application stack itself from an application server perspective. And one of the ones is SDF SMON. If there is an SAP user, they will correlate to it. And what we have done is, for example, I look at this, hey, look, there's something weird happening in my system. The CPU utilization has gone up. What's exactly is happening? So what I could do is I could actually pinpoint to that particular location. And what exactly happens is rest of my system, what's my free memory available, what's happening with paging, what's the number of data, what work process happening, right? Automatically adjust so that now I'm able to slice and dice my information to a point in time where I want to look at it, right? So that's the CPU and memory. We also collect STO3N data, which is your workload statistics, giving end user complete visibility on CPU time, response time, wait time, as well as the load time, right? So this is more around performance of the SAP system, both from an application standpoint of view and so on and so forth. Also, one of the customers came back asking, hey, look, this is great, but how do I know which transaction is actually taking more of my memory and which is the user which is frequently logging in and what's the memory consumption so that I can right size my environment. So what we showed them was looking at the user statistics from an ST03N perspective, where they could go and let me take the time window, where they can actually see which report is taking maximum memory. And this basically filters down on top 100. But if we go to log analytics, you'll have complete visibility. It tells you which report is actually taking maximum time, maximum runtime, what dialog steps, what is the memory consumption, and so on and so forth. Also, it tells you which is the user which is spending a lot of time and taking a lot of throughput out of the system, right? So this is basically giving them the insight right there so that they can start taking actions and right sizing their environment.
One question, because you are talking about trends. So what is the time frame we are keeping this data? Is this we are following log analytics, the storage story, so to say, or we have something special here?
Great question. Okay. So the entire information, telemetry information is stored in the log analytics, which is part of the resource group through AMS. The default configuration of log analytics 30 days of purging data, but customers have the flexibility to change it. So there are 30-day by default, but I've seen customers holding 6 months of trend analysis because they want to look at larger duration to take that information and things like that, right? So it is dependent on customer, the flexibilities with customer, whatever configuration they have done for their log analytics.
Yeah, because I mean they will probably want to see when they have peaks, yeah. So to somehow, yeah. Great, super.
And also the fact that our workbooks provides them an ability to go back and forth in time ranges also. So just not 48 hours, they can choose a larger a month duration as well.
So I mean, maybe a leading question. Obviously, all of this information is also available in the SAP system. So if I'm an SAP basis admin, I can open up my transactions. I can all get this information. Why is this now interesting to have all of this in Azure?
So great question. There are two folds. Number one is having an ability to look at everything with a single pane of glass, right? For example, you may have an information about ST03N, which is what we are pulling from SAP system in your SAP system. But think of this, that you don't have to no longer log into multiple systems. Right now I'm looking at one of the SAP system. I can go back and change it. And right here itself, look at some other SAP system, right? So that's number one. Number two, what we are doing is we are looking at all these data, which is monitoring aspect, and putting our insights back. And classical case is your R to RCA, right? It tells you SAP system is down. You can find out from an SAP system that it went down. But in order to surface why it went down, it requires a lot of manual intervention, right? So from this capability perspective, what we're doing is collecting that metric information, but also providing that insights and capability to the end user so that they can make meaningful information. And on that note, actually, I want to show you something very similar where one of the customers, asked me, hey, look, I'm looking at my batch job. I'm actually rolling out to a new country, but I really don't know what duration I should be, scheduling the jobs to. Now, this is an information which gives you a trend analysis, and I'm just plotting in 48 hours. What it shows you is list of batch jobs scheduled in your system. And if I know for sure, hey, look, this is a duration certainly I'm going to avoid because that's the peak time where I'm actually looking at maximum number of jobs being scheduled and things like that, right? So not only this gives you an information of the system, availability, performance, things like that, the trend actually gives you complete data to right size an environment. And in this case, for example, I want to go to a new country. I want to schedule a batch job. What is the duration I should be picking so that my system is giving that maximum throughput for the end user, which they're hoping for, right? So there are multiple advantages. I've just surfaced a few of them for you.
Cool. I think additional one is because everything is log analytics on the end, and one unique container for all logs and metrics in Azure. So which means that you can combine, for example, infrastructure metrics with that what is coming from SAP system. So now we have the report of stability of the systems, but this is how stable processes inside virtual machines are, but we don't have the metrics how virtual machines behave. So we can combine those two and then see the more clear reports, what is happening. And then especially on this dynamic sizing thinking,
no, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, we had a couple of customers who actually went about on the same topic where we said, hey, look, you get an infrastructure from Azure Monitor. If you have AMS, now you can combine infrastructure application to the same view. So it necessarily becomes a single pane of glass, not just for SAP admin, but for infrastructure admins as well to figure out what's happening in the system.
I think that's actually also a very interesting point. I think in one of our previous podcasts, when we also talked about the cloud adoption framework, I think, Robert, you also mentioned that with the move to the cloud, also the roles and responsibilities of the classic on-premises users are changing. So if I'm an SAP basis guy that used to work only in the SAP GUI all the time, now I'm probably also adopting more and more Azure functionalities. I'm responsible also for other things. And then maybe it's actually really to have this one UI where I have the information from SM21 or something like that. So exactly what you said, Pankaj, that I don't need to jump to a different UI and then jump to another one and open 10 SAP GUIs and work from there. But here, then I can have a holistic view of my Azure infrastructure related components and also getting the insights into my SAP system.
Yeah, actually, you don't need to wait to someone to answer your questions about network, about storage, about virtual machine behavior, how big is virtual machine really, and so on and so on. You can simply go in the same portal. You can go to Log Analytics, a little bit play with Custo Query and create your own report. Yeah.
Yep.
So this is a little bit, your responsibility is somehow maybe same, but option that you can what you can do is much broader and much bigger.
Now, another thing which is information is you can select alerts. For example, I spoke about, hey, look, it tells you trend analysis, but also what we've given is users a bunch of alert templates. For example, during period end closing, you want to monitor jobs which are taking more than 30 minutes. So you have a capability now to create an alert which is just with a single click. So no longer you have to wait to go to multiple SAP systems or multiple SAP products to go and first find out what's happening in your system, look at the trend and look at the alerts, right? So everything is actually comprehensively built with a cloud native concept within the AMS stack itself, right? So it's basically empowering users to look at their SAP data, generate that insight, and obviously take actions on that insight.
Yeah. And just the alert now, that you.
Yeah, go, please.
Sorry, yeah. So the alerts that you just said showed, these are all templates that we are providing out of the box, right?
Yes. So these are Kickstarter alerts. For example, cool. I can take one of them just for the purpose. System availability. Okay, classical case because you would want to monitor. All you have to select is which SAP system you would want to monitor it for.
Oh, nice.
It's just a single click.
And obviously, this is a template that we are providing, but on top of that, I could also create my own alerts with the information there.
Yes, you could. We could create our own alerts right there itself. I'm just going to pull if I have alert rule already configured.
No problem. I think that's clear. Yeah.
So one nasty question. I like those nasty questions. Yeah.
Yes.
So is there any plan to support Azure Monitor in hybrid scenario where my systems are running on premise?
So it's truly a nasty question. I can tell you this. So the way application the AMS works is it is relying on a lot of Azure features, capability. And that's the power, right? Which is how do I make more transparency for users who are running their SAP workload on Azure, right? So it's built with that concept, though it uses standard SAP content to pull information. Okay, right now, the current product is only working for customers who are on Azure because they want to maximize the benefit. I'm happy to take back to the product team and look at if it can work in hybrid situations.
Because not just, of course, there's some hybrid situation which are maybe temporary during the migration process, yeah, and customer would like maybe to see how we are monitoring right now their on-premise systems, and maybe they want to compare them how we monitor them on when they move to Azure, because in some period of time customers will have double costs in double systems because in migration phase they'll probably test something and so on, so they probably want to track that, but it's something like extra feature, but okay,
absolutely. In fact, one of the customers who are actually moving their workloads to Azure reached out to us for a similar request, and we are happy to speak to the customer and walk them through how they can leverage it. how they can maximize their benefit.
Great, thank you. Great.
And just to emphasize, you already showed in this root cause analysis the binding between somebody reboot the VM and that was the code that the instance wasn't available.
Yes.
And honestly, when you need to troubleshoot such an event without this, it takes a lot of people across the teams and effort. I know it.
Absolutely, it does take a lot of time from an end user perspective, and so on and so forth. So I just want to close that thought, right? So if you look at, there are now 22 RFC metrics available which are offering as private preview, and all of you are SAP users. I'm an SAP user, right? So all of the T codes are right there itself for end user, right, to look at, which is 12, 13, 21, 22, right? In fact, one of the customers found an issue in their SAP system while using AMS because it's, oh man, we have a security vulnerability, or there's something wrong happening because our ports are not open in the environment, right? And they saw this through when they were looking at AMS dashboard, right? So SM21 classical example, we take the information, segregate with error warnings and info, and display to the user itself, right? And they're able to see what's happening in the environment and things like that, which program is causing that issues and things like that. Another thing which I just want to just brief upon, because that was an aha moment for one of our customers, was the SNQ1 and SNQ2. They did not realize they had 8,000 queues stuck after the big holiday season, because they did not have alerts configured and things like that. And as soon as they opened AMS, they were like, ooh, the entire transaction is stuck. Right. So, and it also tells you which queues are stuck, what's the destination causing this problem and things like that. Right. So what we have enabled is given ammunition enough for bases and infrastructure, as well as functional people to look at AMS, take the insight and start taking actions on it. Right. So SMQ1 and SMQ2 for a large company which we were supporting, they reached out to me saying, oh, wow, this is amazing, because now I could release the queue much before we could go manually and start releasing it, because the AMS started throwing us the alerts saying, hey, look, there is a queue stuck, the destination is not working, and so on and so forth. And now what we have done with 1.5, we have actually released SM58 as well, which is the transactional RFC.
Well, perfect.
Right. So necessarily what we have done is 20 plus metrics, 18 plus alert templates, and those are very, very easy because you spoke about knowing Kusto. Now, if somebody knows Kusto, they can actually use the alert templates as a Kickstarter, but they can configure or rewrite their queries and again generate their own specific alerts. For example, one of the customers wanted to find, and this is very interesting because they said, hey, look, I know I'm getting ST22, which is my short dump. It is telling me what is the exception, what program is causing that. Can I know, did that program was changed in last 30 days and who was the person who changed it? Right. So that is the information they wanted to extract. And we said, hey, look, all the information is right there for you. And all you have to do is start combining. For example, ST22 tells you the short dump as well as the program name. STMS tells you the number of transports which you have actually moved in the system in last whatever duration you could pick, and it tells you the request number as well as the request owner. Now you could actually marry both the tables together and get that information saying, did this program basically changed in last 30 days and so on and so forth. Now they went ahead and further, they actually combined ST22 with STMS as well as SM12, saying, did my short dump cause a lock entry which did not allow them to do an update? Okay, so that's the kind of correlation which our customers are using. They are going ahead and using the data which is available in Kusto, in log analytics through Kusto queries.
Cool. And then they just created these Kusto queries to combine all these different data sets, and then they could really understand or see what is happening, not only looking at one specific log, what I would typically do in an SAP system, but really pulling in all the different information from the SAP system and potentially also from other Azure native services.
Absolutely. And this goes back to your point, right? Now, if I have to do this, a business admin has to do this in SAP, you have to log into 5 transactions, download in Excel, start writing your pivots, and start writing your own logic and so on and so forth, right? Now with this becomes a single click.
So you need to publish a customer competition in creating their own kind of custom-based queries.
Yeah. So those are the things, and I know I want to be mindful of the time.
No,
so
that's
these are the
perfect.
capabilities we have launched. More than happy to double click if you want to know specific around it. But it's again, I want to reiterate. A lot of people came back saying, I don't see so many tabs. I'm an existing AMS customer. What do I need to do? I just want to reemphasize. Reach out to your account team. Ask them you want to sign up for private preview, and the onboarding is very, very fast. Okay, as soon as we come to know. And configurations are already done. It takes 30 minutes to start pulling out telemetry information right from your SAP system. It works both for NetFever 7.5 as well as for S/4HANA system. So it's very non-intrusive from that point of view.
Okay.
That's great, Pankaj, and thank you very much. I mean, I think we had an AMS introduction some time ago, but it's really amazing how many things already are part of the new solution and how these things are evolving all the time. So I think that was really great.
So I mean, as we are always a little bit hungry for new stuff. So can you share with us some things what is coming and which is very, very interesting in that direction?
Absolutely.
If you can share something, of course.
No, absolutely. More than happy. So if, like I said, we just touched the tip of the iceberg, right? So what we looked at is how do I take the metric information from SAP, which is collecting telemetry. Now, the next step is what Holger spoke about. How do I leverage Azure services like AI to start making insights out of it? The other thing I want to be mindful, and we have to be mindful, is the alert fatigue, which it causes to SAP basis people, right? Getting so many alerts. Now, do you really need those so many alerts, right? So what you would see going forward from a product perspective is while we keep on generating additional telemetry information and metrics, we are going to provide single fingertip insights, just like auto RCA, saying, hey, look, we are going to make day in a life easy for the SAP basis operation as well as business people, saying, hey, look, if I am looking at my SAP system, why is my transaction not working properly? For example, developers, they don't have to go to 15 places to figure out why my program dump what database object it got locked to, and how much time it's being locked to and things like that, right? So you will see a lot of insights coming in future releases, as well as AMS is going through a platform redesign when I say. So what we have realized is more and more customers are coming on, right? And we want to give them a seamless, more scalable experience and things like that. So we are redesigning the platform. Necessarily, the experience doesn't change for the users. Log analytics still remains the same, but we're making it much more powerful because we understand it's going to be multi-SAP systems, multi-S/4HANA systems and things like that, right? So that is redesign is happening from that perspective. The third aspect, which I just want to touch upon, you saw about HANA SQL and things like that. You're going to get more coverage from an SAP point of view, right? Where when somebody from an SAP admin is going to look at it and say, man, this is so seamless because I just don't have to spend so much time configuring this. It is cloud native. It takes 20 minutes to just plug and play. And then I have all the information right there. So I'm just going to focus on something which is much more meaningful and productive from that point of view, right? So that's the goal and aspiration. How do I increase the productivity of our basis and operations people? So you would see a lot of capability coming from those perspective in AMS.
Great.
And obviously goal is to go GA as soon as possible. So multiple regions, multiple places and things like that.
But until then, reach out to your account executive from Microsoft, ask for joining, how they can join the private preview for AMS and test out all these cool features that you just showed us.
Absolutely.
Great, Pankaj, thank you very, very much for your time. I'm sure this was not the last time that you were on the show. I'm sure next time we have some, or you have some other cool things to talk about. We will be happy to have you back on the show.
Absolutely. It's been a privilege, Holger, Robert. And again, I said, I'm a great fan of your podcast. And it's an honor to be part of it, right? And to speak to the larger Azure community around what cool things we are doing within the SAP stack.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Then have a great day. Thank you very much and see you next week again, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye-bye.